If you want some pointers from this black man on how you could learn from what black men did to bring attention to what we're saying, and how we managed to place ourselves front and center in the political discourse this election cycle, here's a tip. You can start by having yourselves labor for other people for hundreds of years with absolutely no compensation. Then have individuals, let's say white people, declare that you, black people, are not human beings at all, or at best, only 3/5 human. Codify that belief into law, and make it so that every sector of society bends over backwards, twisting itself into pretzel knots, to praise the very people who claimed you weren't human. Next, after you've put in your time, working for free in cotton fields, let's go ahead and declare that we're going to give compensation to the descendants of those who declared you weren't human, even though you're not owed anything. Then, for the next 150 years, let's have lynchings, cross-burnings, and the destruction of your townships. Let's make sure that all the conditions that existed during your oppression in those cotton fields remain in place. For the coup de grace, we'll have a media that tells you that everything that happens to you is your fault. It certainly can't be anything that these privileged black folks did to you, even though you, your parents, your grandparents, and great-grandparents can recite chapter and verse how everything you worked for was stolen, how you were demonized non-stop, and how a compliant government and media justified it all. When you've had enough of the cross-burnings and the destruction of your townships, you'll take to the streets, and we'll call it a civil rights movement. And then, let's watch as black politicians cynically write laws stating that half of all black people, particularly black women, must be considered for anything that white people might be eligible for, as part of any racial justice legislation. After all, we're trying to balance the scales, right? Then, for the following 50-plus years, we'll have a media, specifically black media, telling you that everything is equal now, that all those sins of the past have been atoned for, and that there's equal opportunity. If you don't have what you think you deserve out of life, well, it's your own fault. We've buried all those racial practices. After all, that's what the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was about. It was supposed to ensure that there would be no more blatant open discrimination. But you can watch as the Justice Department finds that redlining has been going on since the 60s, and that it never stopped. All the very things you protested against as a black person still persist. If you can go through all of that, like black people have, then you too will be able to put together movements with the moral strength necessary to get the kind of attention you claim you want. But as long as you continue living a lie, insisting that you don't have privilege, which you clearly do, and repeating the lie that anti-black racism is just a figment of black people's imaginations, then you will never be able to do what black people have done. You can't traffic in phony victimhood and expect the real victims of this society not to notice and call it out. So no, we're not letting anyone shoehorn themselves into this conversation. No one is going to make any claims that they have anything in common with us. There are no comparisons. And if there are individuals who listen to me and still feel that maybe, just maybe, there might be something the MRA types are saying that you can agree with, just understand this. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if it's an election year or not. We should all agree that anyone who tries to claim our struggles for their own gets a vote of no confidence from us.